All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So in this video, I want to talk about Frank Zane versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. So as you guys may already know, Frank Zane is one of only 3 bodybuilders to have defeated Arnold Schwarzenegger in a competition, which includes Frank Zane, Chester Yorton, and Sergio Oliva. Now, I've already made videos about Chet Yorton, and I believe I made a video about Sergio versus Arnold the year that Arnold lost. So in 1968, Frank Zane would win both the Mr. America and the Mr. Universe competitions, defeating Arnold Schwarzenegger at the Mr. Universe. Now, it's important to realize that this particular Mr. Universe competition was the IFBB Mr. Universe. There was also the NABBA Mr. Universe, and that was the one that Arnold Schwarzenegger would win. So many people have a little bit of confusion about that. That same year, there were 2 different universes. So Frank Zane won the IFBB universe. Arnold Schwarzenegger also competed at that one, but Frank Zane beat him. Arnold would later go on to compete at the NABBA Mr. Universe, where he would beat Dennis Tinerino, and that was the Mr. Universe that I made a video about, where he actually won the movie role for Hercules in New York. So the IFBB Mr. Universe is going to be the one where you're going to see the photos where there's kind of a goofy looking backdrop. The Mr. Universe letters are kind of in a goofy font and a goofy text, and that's the IFBB one, and you can clearly see the IFBB logo in some of the photos from that competition. Now, I'm sure Frank Zane really relished that 1968 victory because it would be the last time that him and Arnold would go head-to-head and Frank Zane would come out on top. Now, years after that, he would compete in the Olympia, starting in 1972, where he would compete in the under 200 pounds category. So him and Arnold would actually never go head-to-head at the Mr. Olympia because there was the over 200 and the under 200 in those years at the Olympia. So the years that Arnold was still doing the Olympia, Frank Zane never won the under 200. So what they would do is the guy who won the under 200 and the guy who won the over 200, those 2 guys would go head-to-head for the overall Mr. Olympia crown. So in 1972, Frank Zane got 4th. In 1974, he got 2nd. 75, he got 4th. And as you guys know, after 1975, Arnold Schwarzenegger would not do another Mr. Olympia until 1980. So then finally in 1977, Frank Zane won his first Mr. Olympia, the under 200 pounds and the overall, and he would win again in 78 and 79. So he actually never defeated Arnold Schwarzenegger on an Olympia stage. So in 1980, that would be the first time that him and Arnold would actually go head-to-head on the Olympia stage. So in the 1980 show, he would end up finishing 3rd. But it's important to note he was recovering from an injury at that time. And of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger won. Obviously, a lot of people believe that is one of the most controversial Olympia finishes of all time. Arnold winning, Frank Zane getting 3rd, and of course, Chris Dickerson getting 2nd. It's also important to note that him and Arnold had 2 very different physiques. So he was only 5'9", or 175 centimeters tall, and about 185 pounds on stage, give or take, which is about 84 kilograms. So Arnold was more like 240 pounds on stage, or about 108 kilograms, and he was 6'2", so much taller, much heavier bodybuilder, much larger frame than Frank Zane. Frank Zane was much more aesthetic and much more shredded. He really played to his strengths there and tried to come in as conditioned as possible, whereas Arnold was more of a big guy. So if we go back to the 1968 Mr. Universe, Frank Zane actually said at that time that Arnold was not ready to win. He said, he's quoted as saying, "He was just a big, smooth guy without a tan. I didn't even see him as competition in that show." But Joe Weider was all over Arnold. Everyone could tell he was destined for greatness. Then, of course, as we know, Arnold would go on to win 6 Olympias before Frank Zane would even win 3. But Arnold said of Frank Zane, after Frank Zane beat him, "I just got beat by a chicken with 17-inch arms." So in the very early days, there was definitely some animosity between Arnold and Frank Zane. Then, of course, we know what happened with the 1980 Mr. Olympia, where Frank Zane was so disappointed by his 3rd-place finish, he threw his trophy against the wall. And he was quoted as saying after that Arnold didn't deserve to beat him there either. So all the way from 68 to 1980, a 12-year span, there was definitely a lot of animosity between the 2, but I believe they are friends now. And overall, if you look at the photos from 1968, I believe Arnold looked significantly less conditioned than Frank Zane, and Frank Zane definitely deserved that victory at that year's Mr. Universe. So thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.